Hi friends, welcome to EduTap. As part of this video, EduTap brings to you an analysis of general awareness section that comes as part of Phase 1 RBI Grade B examination. So as part of this video, we are going to discuss the questions and the trends that were there in the 2016 and 2017 RBI Grade B examination. Now, before we begin with the in-depth analysis, let us all first be familiar with the Phase 1 pattern of RBI Grade B examination. It is very important to note the marks which comes from this section to actually appreciate the importance of general awareness. Basically, there are 4 sections that are there: general awareness, English language, quantitative aptitude, and reasoning ability. Among these, general awareness has 80 solid marks coming from it. So here we can gauge the importance of this section. Okay friends, so what are we going to discuss as part of this analysis video? First of all, we have classified the questions that had appeared in the 2016 and 2017 examination into 4 broad categories for easy understanding. Then we shall see the number of questions that were asked in year 2016 and 17 from these sections. Then we can see the importance of various sections. We shall then move on and have a look at the cutoff marks for the years 2016 and 17. Then we can just see what are the key takeaways from this analysis. And finally, how will we at EduTap help you all? So we shall have a look at the 4 broad categories. The first being some important data. The second one, banking awareness. It can also include economic and financial news. Then we shall move on to the third section, which is a current affairs section. And finally, we have the static GK. Let us move on and see what does each of these categories constitute. Okay friends, so the first category being some important data. Basically here we are referring to the questions that have come from census data and socio-economic caste census. So basically, with respect to RBI Grade B 2018 examination, the questions would come from the latest census, that is 2011 census, and socio-economic caste census of 2011. Now friends, the questions that come from such categories are factual questions. So we need to basically memorize such answers. So there's one more thing which we need to understand, that whenever we study an economic and social issues topic, for example, when we are studying poverty alleviation or when we are studying employment generation, so we cover important data in census 2011 related to such topics. So when we are preparing for our phase 2, automatically we get ourselves prepared for phase 1 as well. Now the second broad category is the banking awareness section. So basically, what do we see as part of this banking awareness? So friends, first we need to understand that this particular section shall include questions both from static as well as current affairs part. Okay, let me give you an example. Static part, like they will ask you what is the full form of IFSC in IFSC code. So that is a static question. They can ask you what is the full form of NEFT or IMPS. This is again a static question. Now, what do we mean by current affairs related question? Like suppose if there is an amendment which is being made in, for say, like RBI Act or Banking Regulation Act, and regarding that if there is a question, then we can say that that question has come from current affairs part of banking awareness. Now, this is a very broad category. It may include economic and financial news as well. For example, they may ask questions related to Gift City, right? It is a kind of a financial news. They may ask any announcements which have been made by RBI related to some monetary policy tools. So again, we see that this is a mix of static part as well as the current affairs part. Next, we also include the headquarters of important public sector, private banks, as well as some foreign-based banks. So this also forms an important category under banking awareness. Friends, there might also be questions which may be related to pure concepts, like there might be questions related to GDP, what is BOP, or inflation. So very basic concept-based questions can also form a part of banking awareness. Now let us have a look at the third broad category, which is the current affairs category. So under this category, we might get questions related to important appointments, related to important committees and sports events. For example, where was a particular championship held, and certain awards and film festivals, related to meetings and summits like the recent important summits of regional economic cooperations, where were they held. Questions related to certain schemes or campaigns. There might be certain portals which were launched by the government, some important international news or India's initiative with other countries. We may also have miscellaneous questions like the inauguration of particular ports or maybe industrial parks. There might be some museums which would have been set up, or power plants, nuclear plants, any questions related to the recent missile launch, and then subsequently any important questions related to any defense deal which was accomplished by the government of India. Then questions related to the recent reports and indices. Where does India stand in the particular indices? Finally, we may have certain questions related to obituary. So friends, we see that a number of subcategories are there under current affairs. This section also forms a very important part in the general awareness. The fourth broad category being that of static GK. So under it, we have numerous things which could come from biography, autobiographies, abbreviations, festivals, the stadiums, where are they located, national parks and sanctuaries, books, sports, places of importance like World Heritage Sites, certain important lakes or rivers, mountains, temples, currency, questions related to headquarters, capitals, national and international days and the themes of such days each year, important dams. There might be miscellaneous questions which we cannot categorize easily. Then there might be questions on important airports. So we see a lot of questions from diverse topics under static GK. Now let us have a look at the various questions that were asked in 2016 and 17. So first, we shall have a look at the number of questions that were asked. So as earlier we had discussed that there are total 80 questions coming in from GA section. So let us see the split up into four broad categories. So the first category being important data category, as we discussed the data from census or socio-economic caste census. So we see that one or two questions only come from such data or census. So in 2016 there was just a single question and we didn't find a question in 2017. Next, we shall move on to the second broad category, that is the banking awareness and terminology category. Here we see a good number of questions. 22 questions were asked in the year 2016 and 26 questions in the year 2017. So again, we see that the relative importance is kept the same. So this is a section to look out for. Next comes the current affairs section. This section takes a major chunk of marks. So in the year 2016, total 41 questions were from this section, and in the year 2017, 32 questions were from this section. So we had already discussed that what all are the subcategories that are under this section. So by seeing the number of marks coming from this section, we can automatically realize that this forms the major section broad category of general awareness. So we need to look out for current affairs as well as banking awareness and terminology. Now we shall have a look at the number of questions that were from the static GK part. So in the year 2016, we saw a total of 16 questions that found its place in the paper, and in 2017 there were a total of 22 questions. Right? So now let us move on and see the relative importance of various sections with respect to marks out of 80. Now looking at these pie charts, we can gauge the importance of various sections. Now we see that there are two sections that stand out. One is the current affairs section and the other is the banking awareness section. This has been the trend in both the years 2016 as well as 2017. Okay friends, So moving on, why are we actually doing this analysis? Because we see that the number of questions may vary year to year. Like for example, in 2016, a particular section may find more weightage, and the same section the next year might see a medium weightage. So the basic reason for this analysis is to actually find out the trend, the questions, the type of questions that we see in paper. So to understand that, this section or this part of analysis is very important, where we shall see certain examples that found its place in paper in the year 2016 and 17. So what we shall be doing is, under each category, we shall be seeing 2 or 3 examples so that we can get an idea of the type of questions that come in the paper. So here, the first section we are dealing with is the some important data section. There's just one question which we shall be discussing. So the question that came in the paper was, according to the 2011 census, the Indian state that has the dubious distinction of having the worst male-female ratio is. So friends, here we see that it is a very straightforward question, provided you have memorized certain important facts which were related to 2011 census. So again, I'm repeating myself, this is just fact-based questions. Now friends, let us have a look at the type of questions that found its place in banking awareness or economic and finance news categories. The first question is, the IFSC code is an alphanumeric comprising of 11 characters that facilitates electronic fund transfer in the country. Now, the alphabet I in the abbreviation IFSC stands for what? So friends, very straightforward, simple question, provided we know that such kind of questions find their place in the paper. Now, let us see some other questions as well to get a grip of this particular category. So, there might be questions related to type of derivatives that have payoff more complex than usual. So, this is a question from finance. Payment banks are prone to which kind of risk? Again, a question which is related to banking sector, but at the same time, concept-based question. Then we have, as per branch authorization policy, 25% branch should be in. Again, related to banking area. Then we have, hedge funds are similar to what? A question from finance. Banks which do marketing are called what? Again, investment banks. So again, here we see a question related to the banking sector. Now friends, the questions under this category are very wide and they are a mix. So basically, as initially also I mentioned, I am stressing it again that it could include questions from the current happenings, like maybe for say if there is some amendment in particular acts which are related to the banking or the financial sector, then that question might be there in the paper. For example, I will give you a question like the white label ATM. If there is some regulations coming in with respect to ATMs, then again we can find a mention under this category. Then there might be questions related to certain wallets which the various public sector banks come up with. Any digital initiative which the government comes up related to digital banking, I mean. So that also finds a place in this particular section. So friends, basically we need to be very prepared for answering the questions under this broad category. Before we move on to the next category, let us discuss 2 more questions from this particular banking awareness category. So there was a question which said, the National Thermal Power Corporation Limited had recently listed the first Indian quasi-sovereign green masala bond on London Stock Exchange and had raised an amount of. So here we see that the question was related to the recent happening, and plus it included a question we can say from the financial sector because it was related to the masala bonds. Next, we move on to the next question. The Reserve Bank of India prepares a financial stability report on what basis for the apex level Financial Stability and Development Council. So basically they are asking the frequency of this report. So this is a question which is related to the banking sector. So again, I repeat myself that this section forms an important part of GA section. Now let us have a look at some examples from the current affairs broad category. We shall see few questions related to each of the subcategories coming under current affairs. So here we are having a look at the appointments and the committee section. Here let us see the question first. Which of the following has recently been appointed as head of a legal panel by the BCCI to help implementation of the Justice Lodha Committee reforms? So here again we see that this question is related to the recent happening with respect to obviously the RBI Grade B 2016 examination. Next, the foreign minister of which country elected as president of United Nations General Assembly. So here again we need to understand that not only knowing the person who's been elected to important positions with respect to international affairs, we should also know from the origin or the country from where that particular individual belongs to. Now let us have a look at the example from the sports subcategory of current affairs section. Here there was a question related to the sports personality. Kannur Lokesh Rahul, commonly known as KL Rahul, is related to which of the following sports? Next, the South Asian Table Tennis Championship was held in which place? Again, National Table Tennis Championship was held in which place? So basically we see the questions coming in related to sports personality, as in this case, as well as the venue of important championships which were held recently. Let us have a look at examples of awards and film festivals type questions. So there was a question which was related to the Karlovy Film Festival in which country? So basically it belongs to Czech Republic. Kind of a tough question. Next, the human rights activist from India who's amongst the winners of 2016 Raman Magsaysay Award is. So again here it is related to the current happenings with respect to the particular examination. Now let us have a look at the examples of meetings and summits type questions. Here there was a question which asked G20 Summit 2017 was held in which country? Now here again this is a very straightforward question provided we are updated with the current affairs. Then this 2016 World Economic Forum India Economic Summit is going to be held in which place? So basically not only the events which have been held, but the event which are going to be held in the near future can also find a place in the paper as a question. Now next let us see the examples from schemes, campaigns, portals type of questions. So under the Pradhan Mantri Suraksha Bima Yojana, the risk coverage is 2 lakhs for accidental death and full disability and 1 lakh for partial disability. The cover is however not available too. So this is a question which is related to eligibility regarding a particular scheme. Next, there was a question related to the objective or the purpose of a scheme like Mudra loan purpose. What is the purpose of Mudra loan? For financing small industries. So we see that these are quite direct questions provided we are updated with the ongoing schemes, campaigns and various portals which are launched by the Government of India. Now here is a question which is related to international news or India's initiative with other countries. So there was a coup which was recently attempted, that is in July 2016, against the state institution including the government by a fraction within a country's armed forces in which of the following countries? So basically here we need to see that the recent happenings find a place in paper. Here this question had come in RBI Grade B 2016 examination. So please don't get confused because before 1 year current affairs do not find mention in the paper. Next, Leo Varadkar, who was recently in news, is which country's Prime Minister? So again this was a news which was there during the time of the examination. Moving on to the miscellaneous part, we see that what is the range of advanced version of BrahMos missile which was recently successfully tested by the Indian Air Force. Again, this is a question which is related to current affairs, but provided we need to know the details as well. It is not just enough to know that BrahMos missile was recently tested, but we should know the range as well. This is a kind of extrapolation which we need to understand that exists with every current event that is taking place. Next, the first underwater metro connectivity between Howrah and Kolkata. First biofuel was developed by IIT Kharagpur. These are miscellaneous questions and cannot be put under a definite category. Now let us have a look at the obituary subsection of current affairs. So let us discuss some of the questions. Kaliko Pol, who was recently found dead under mysterious circumstances, was a former Chief Minister of the Indian state of. Next, D. Narayana Rao, who passed away recently, was an Indian film director and politician. Next question, Abdul Rahman, who passed away recently, was a Tamil singer. So here we are seeing that we should be aware of the professions of the people who passed away recently as well. Such type of questions find a mention in the paper. Now so far we have had a look at the examples coming in from 3 broad categories. Now we move on to some of the examples of static GK category. So the first question is, IOM's stated mission is to promote human and orderly migration by providing services and advice to governments and migrants. Now what does IOM stand for? This is basically a simple abbreviation question. Which of the following is an autobiography on lawn tennis star Sania Mirza? Again, this question found its place in the paper because that autobiography was recently released before the examination. So we need to keep ourselves updated even before the immediate months of our examination. Next, Financial Literacy Week was from 5th to 9th June. What is the theme of Tobacco Day? So we need to be aware of the important national as well as international days. Plus, we need to keep in mind the theme of those days in the particular years. Now let us move on and discuss some of the examples as well. So what is the theme of 2016 International Museum Day? So again, as we discussed earlier, we need to be aware of the themes of particular important national and international days. September 28, the death anniversary of Louis Pasteur, is observed every year as what? Pakal Dual Dam is in which state? Berlin is a capital of which country? Amman is the capital of which country? Again, these are very straightforward questions. Now friends, we have had a look at the number of questions that were asked in the year 2016 and 17 from the various broad categories. We had a look at the type of questions by seeing some of the examples. Now, coming to a very important part of this analysis, let us have a look at the cutoff for the years 2016 as well as 17. Now friends, in the 2016 examination, we see that the total questions were obviously 80 for general awareness. The cutoff for the general category was a 20 marks. Now, there is one thing to note here is the overall cutoff was 98.50. So out of it, we see that a decent score would have been about 55 marks in general awareness section. So if you can score 55, you see that major part of your work is done because the overall cutoff was just 98.50. Friends, we need to keep one thing in mind, that the sections like reasoning, English language, quantitative aptitude they are completely unpredictable. There might be a situation where the questions are so much complex that you might be able to answer just 7 to 8 questions from each section. So in that case, the only section that comes to our rescue is general awareness section. This section can help you clear phase 1 RBI Grade B examination. Now friends, let us have a look at the cutoff for the year 2017. So in the general awareness section, the cutoff for the general category was 16.50 and the overall cutoff was 78. Friends, there were some of our students from EduTap who actually scored 70 out of 80 in the general awareness section. Basically, scoring maximum marks in this section can allow you to clear phase 1 without any hiccups, because as I mentioned earlier, the predictability is very vague for reasoning, English language and quantitative aptitude sections. So kindly aim for this particular section. A score which is decent would be 55. Okay friends, so we have seen a lot. We have seen what are the number of questions that were asked in 2016 and 17 under the various 4 broad categories that we had made. Then we saw the type of questions by discussing some of the examples from the previous year question papers. Then we had a look at the relative importance of various sections. Moving on to discuss the cutoff that was there in year 2016 as well as 2017. So the bottom line was target the general awareness section to smoothly sail through phase 1 of RBI Grade B examination. Now, what are the key takeaways that you need to keep in mind? First thing, there's a lot of overlap between ESI current affairs section and GA current affairs. Now friends, when you're preparing for phase 2 of RBI Grade B in the ESI paper, current affairs forms a major part. So when you're preparing for that current affairs section, automatically many of your questions would get solved for GA current affairs. So that is an added advantage provided you keep your orientation in the right direction. Next, a lot of rote learning is involved. So basically revision is the key. We need to revise as many times as we can and at least 3 times. Like we saw, there were a lot of headquarters which need to be kept in mind. There is no concept involved, but we need to memorize those answers. Next, 6 months of coverage is enough and we should focus on the preceding 3 months of RBI Grade B examination. Now we need to attempt the GA section first when we start a paper, and this is a section which will give you maximum marks in minimum time. So basically just devote 15 to 20 minutes of your time for this section and aim for 55 good marks. Okay friends, so we have had a very detailed and an in-depth analysis of the general awareness section of RBI Grade B examination. Now, how will we at EduTap help you? So basically, we shall be providing you 10 full-length mock tests along with detailed solutions. Friends, it is very important for us to understand the importance of these detailed solutions, because what happens is usually it is not possible to predict the exact question that would be there in the real RBI Grade B examination. So what happens is, if there's a particular question, extrapolation is the key. We need to revolve around that questions, and the extra information or the detailed solutions that we provide may sometimes come as a separate or a direct question in the paper. So not only the questions are important, but their detailed solutions are equally important. Then we are going to give you all additional month-wise general awareness MCQs with detailed explanations. So monthly we would be providing you with nearly 300 to 500 questions. Next, we are going to give you a separate set of static GK MCQs with detailed explanations. The questions might range from 500 to 1000 per month. So all the above sets are based on this analysis which we had projected, so that we can frame questions based on real RBI Grade B examination pattern. So friends, with this we have come to the end of RBI Grade B Phase 1 General Awareness Section in-depth analysis. So the bottom line is, maximize your marks in this section by spending minimum time in your examination. So thank you friends, and happy learning.